stuff is here. Mr. Piano Man, sit down upon that stool. If you need a helping hand, you'll be rewarded. Don't you feel like a doggone fool? Close the windows and lock the door. Take the rug up off the floor. Hey, hey, let's all get gay, the stuff is here.
Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction news right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. Millions of pesky love bugs invade Florida. Twice a year, pesky invasive love bugs swarm Florida, splattering their gooey insides on car hoods, windshields, and even flying into people's mouths. And of course, annoying visitors at the happiest place on earth. In recent days, Florida social media users have been sharing video and photos of the annoying insects as the bugs descend on the state in which many people are calling the worst love bug infestation in years. Love bugs are an invasive species, also known as the honeymoon fly or double-headed bug. During and after mating, adults pair remain coupled, even in flight, for up to several days. And contrary to rumors, they were not genetically modified and then released by scientists as a way to rid Florida of mosquitoes. They don't even eat mosquitoes. Source, Geek.com. And a Bigfoot has been spotted in Pennsylvania. Culver, Pennsylvania. A man in Cambria County says he saw a creature he believes to be a Bigfoot. The 59-year-old retired man who provided his full name but opted to remain anonymous told Cryptozoology News last week that he was with his truck parking near the woods back in 2014 when the animal showed up. He's quoted as saying, "I was going hunting. I parked the truck and saw this thing come out of the woods," he said. The Culver resident claims the bipedal creature then walked down the road as it turned its head back to look at him. Quote, "It looked at me. It scared me so bad I was shaking." The man describes the animal as a black, 8-foot-tall primate. He estimates the weight at around 500 pounds. The sighting, he said, lasted a few minutes. The eyewitness did not present photographic evidence of the alleged encounter. Culver is an unincorporated community with a population of 1,000. Just a month ago, 2 women claimed to have seen a Bigfoot creature in Cambridge Springs, Pennsylvania. Source, Cryptozoology News. And the world's most depressing sports competition has coffins for prizes. The Julica Coffin Cup is not your usual futsal tournament. It's a competition between teams representing the 12 largest funeral houses in the Puno region of southeastern Peru. So it kind of makes sense that the main prize be something representative of the funeral businesses. Still, fighting for your heart out on the pitch for an expensive casket you have to share with 5 other teammates doesn't exactly sound worthwhile. But that didn't stop the winning team from parading their $1,300 luxury coffin on their shoulders and singing "Ole, Ole, Champion" at the end of the final match. Source, OddityCentral.com. And now for an informative and important fun fact. A pregnant goldfish is known as a twit. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction news right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS drift.
Contact, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from atop a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm Joe Root. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the broadcast on this Monday night, May the 20th, on into the 21st. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with author and near-death experiencer Tricia Barker. So if you're curious about the things like life after death, the human spirit, angels, metaphysics, and more, you might want to stay tuned for this, because in my opinion, this is a very fascinating story. That's coming up in just a moment. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. Put your name and email at the website at lightingthevoid.com. It's totally free. And speaking of which, we're live there as well as on the network KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. I had a lovely time with Mr. Ronnie McMullen at our webinar today. And for all of you guys that came out and hung with us, it was really fun. It was such a blast, so thank you all. We're doing it again, I think, June the 3rd. Yeah, that's it. June the 3rd. So you're going to show up there and you get a chance to get an exclusive coupon. And every now and then he gives away stuff, too, so that's cool. AncientLifeOil.com, get the tea.com. Also, don't forget to go to preparewiththefringe.com to get your special. If you want to grab a T-shirt, you buy anything for $100 or more, and you get a T-shirt, free Lighting the Void T-shirt. Follow us on social media, and if you have a UFO sighting, make sure you head over to UFOseekers.com, backed and supported by the Fringe FM with Tim and Tracy. I'm ready to get into this. I know some of you want me to talk about the Game of Thrones stuff. I ain't even going to go down that road. I think y'all are probably sick of me talking about Game of Thrones. This is way more important. Stuff like this is way more important, in my opinion, because I believe this really happened to Trisha. And this story is fantastic. So here we go. Tricia Barker, experienced a profound near-death experience during her senior year of college, and this experience guided her to teach overseas in public schools and at the college level. And her near-death experience story has been featured on I Survived, Beyond and Back, Season 1, Episode 5, National Geographic's April 2016 article, The Crossing, the cover story for Simple Grace magazine, an article in Women's World magazine, and featured on the famous The Dr. Oz Show of February of this year, 2019. In her memoir, Angels in the OR, What Dying Taught Me About Healing, Survival, and Transformation. Now, this book tells a story of her near-death experience, teaching mission and eventual triumph over trauma in her past. The book also focuses on the importance of being of service to the world and the healing power of giving unconditional love to others. She believes that joy, humor, and healing is available to everyone through a deeper connection to divinity. Now, Tricia Barker and a longtime writer for Hallmark have recently completed a screenplay based on her book, Angels in the OR. She's also a graduate of the University of Texas, and she also received her Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Goddard College. Currently, she teaches English and creative writing at a beautiful community college in Fort Worth, Texas, and she interviews other near-death experiencers, researchers, healers, spiritual teachers, and mediums on her YouTube channel. Her poetry and essays have been published in several publications, including The Binnacle, the Patterson Literary Review, and the Midwest Quarterly. Our book is available at Simon & Schuster's, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and it's also on Audible in audiobook form. And her website is triciabarkernde.com. Tricia, thank you for coming on Lighting the Void. It's a real pleasure having you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to chat with you. It's going to be a great chat, I can tell.
Was Dr. Oz something? What was that like going on that show, I wonder? I always liked that show.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. You know, it was a short segment, but I was very happy that I was able to communicate some of that love of God, because you never know who's lying in a hospital bed and, you know, taking their last breaths and, you know, might watch that show, or it might be on in the room, and it might give peace to them. Because I think one of the things that's really cool about being a near-death experiencer is giving people peace and hope and comfort about the dying process. A lot of people are afraid of it, but we are not afraid.
When did you start telling? When did you feel comfortable coming out and telling this story?
Well, you know, oddly enough, I knew I had a near-death experience from the first moment I woke up out of surgery. So I had, you know, spinal surgery after a massive car wreck, and it was close to a 17-hour wait and close to a 17-hour surgery. But when they took the tracheotomy out and they were giving me ice chips, I asked my surgeon right away. I said, "Hey, how long was I dead?" And that really kind of freaked her out. She was like, "Oh, we thought we lost you for a couple of minutes, but you'll be fine. Calm down. You know, everything's going to be great. Your surgery went really well." But from the beginning, I talked openly about it. And near-death experiencers are intense, you know, because we've connected with this other side in this real way. And, you know, I think we can take some people off guard a little bit. And so, you know, I started talking about it from the beginning, but I didn't come out publicly like in a blog format or on YouTube until a couple of years ago after National Geographic interviewed me, because their interview was really short and it didn't really do the whole story justice. So I thought, hey, it's time I talk about this.
Yeah, so you mean take people off guard, like you're having a Starbucks with one of your friends and you're talking about what happened on what TV show, and you said, "Hey, by the way, you know, I died and came back and saw angels and stuff." Did they?
Yeah.
People treat you a little different.
Yeah. So immediately I lost some friends, and my story is kind of an odd one, in that I was a wild party girl in college and agnostic and not interested in spirituality or this type of stuff at all. And so immediately I lost a lot of friends who were lost in the drug culture of Austin, and they just couldn't connect with me, you know, that I was so full of light and intensity and really focused on healing that we just, our personalities no longer connected. But some friends who were really on the sidelines, who were somewhat interested in spirituality and believed this kind of stuff, became closer friends. And then other friends just proved mature enough, you know, to see me through it, even though they disagreed. You know, then I had my agnostic friends who for years and years and years have argued with me about this. And I have said time and time again, you know, no, this was not my brain shutting down. This was not a hallucination. This was a spiritual reality. I know the difference. And this is what happened. And they said, you know, time and time again, yeah, we believe that you believe that this happened to you, but they didn't come on board until they read my book, Angels on the OR. And I'm not saying I made converts of them, but at least a couple of friends have said, you know what, my brain opened up a little and I began to imagine what it might be like when we die. Like, you took me to that place. And so I did a little happy dance, as you might imagine.
Yeah, it's funny. Once they dive into, once you get past the back and forth and they dive into your story really big, that's where it gets a lot of people. I see that happens a lot. That's what books are good for.
Yeah, they can be visual.
Tell me, if it's okay, can you walk us through the car wreck? What happened to you?
Yeah, so that part of the story is a little traumatizing because the spiritual aspect of a near-death experience is easy to digest in some ways because there's no pain, but there is pain, you know, like in the physical part of it. So I was on my way to run Austin 10K, which was this symbol of getting my life back together. You know, I'd been a little too wild at college and really kind of knew I was off track. So I was on my way to run this race, and at a strange intersection, I know the first light was yellow. I don't know if I fell asleep at the wheel or if the other person gunned it and jumped the gun, whatever the case. We kind of hit each other at a curve, and it was almost a head-on collision. And they were in a big SUV, and I was in a small Honda Civic, and my car just crunched up. And I knew something was badly wrong because I couldn't reach my license and registration in the glove box. I tried, and my back just was slumped over to one side, and I was up against the window of the car, and I couldn't lift up. And I knew that was serious, and that freaked me out. And I grew up in a religious home, but it was an abusive home too, and so I didn't really connect with religion at that time. But in that moment, I said a little Hail Mary prayer, a little "Save me, God! This is scary." And then after a time, I was taken in the ambulance to the hospital, and there was a long wait. Austin has a ton of college students, and there's a lot of accidents, and neurosurgeons are always behind, in dealing with the amount of spinal trauma that happens in that town. And so I waited 17 hours before I was taken into emergency surgery. And and that was the accident part of it.
My goodness. So you had to wait in pain for that long? That's pretty scary. That's pretty freaky.
It is.
So do you remember them wheeling you back or anything? Because surgery freaks me out. Even when I have small surgeries, like I've had appendicitis and gallbladder stuff, it's like that last moment when they're wheeling you back there to tell you to put you to sleep. That is, you kind of give in though, right before it all happens. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, totally. Because I had to sign a piece of paper that said 17% chance of death. And I remember thinking that is oddly specific, it's not 15, it's not 18, it's 17%. And I thought, well, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm about to run this race. I'm not going to die, and I signed it and felt okay about it. And I remember counting down to 98 and being out. Then, as a side note, I have not had a surgery since. I have in my mind that, if I'm shot or something, I want to do it old school, where you have a shot of whiskey and someone just digs the bullet wound out. Like, I do not want to be put under.
Yeah, see, me either. I'm afraid of being put to sleep. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So after that, what took place?
Well, okay, so then I was out, and there was nothing but blackness and, just what you expect from a surgery. But at some point, my spirit form lifted up out of my body, and I saw that they had been operating for some time, and I saw, two surgeons. It looked like my main surgeon and an assistant busy at work on my body, and I saw how bloody it was. I'd read things about the Civil War and, just like bloody battles, and I didn't realize that, my back would look that gruesome. But that was my first thought, is it was opened up from mid-back, all the way down, and then my hip was opened up too, because they needed to take bone from the hip and put that in the back. And I remember thinking, oh, gross. But then I kind of looked down at my spirit body, and I thought, holy crap, we go on. This is not a dream. This is my spirit form looking down on these doctors, and I could see the tops of their heads. Interesting little point. I worked as best as I could with the graphic artist who did the cover of my book, and they do show doctors and assistants the tops of their heads working on a possible body, because that was the first image that I saw when I pulled out. And I really wanted to go back and tell all my friends, my agnostic friends that we go on, because I swear to you, I was convinced that this was a spiritual reality and that the body was just this vehicle, and it just looked like, oh, it's just this thing that carries me through life, and there's all this consciousness that is so much more important than the body. But we get so attached to our lives and our body and this being it that we forget that this greater consciousness exists. But I knew it, like snap your fingers out, knew it. I didn't need a full, profound near-death experience, but I had one because in the next moment I looked up and there were these massive 9-foot angels glowing with light and intelligence. And that was the first thing that really struck me, is they were so intelligent. And I almost felt embarrassed by their intelligence. I know that's an odd thing to say, but
it is.
But I felt honored in some way that these highly intelligent beings were there for me, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, you said that they were 9-foot tall, glowing light beings of intelligence. How did you know they were intelligent? Was it just something that you knew inside, or was it based on your conversations?
Yeah, so angels communicate with telepathy, and there's a lot of energy and emotion and like, if you think of compacted words and feelings all just transferred, and as light is transferred into you, then that's how they communicate. But I knew that they understood this environment, and they were trying to give me hints about how to navigate this environment, because I was now a spirit form. And I'm sure, we've heard stories of ghosts or people that are lost and maybe don't know how to navigate the spiritual realm, but I felt as if they were there for me to help me. And so I calmed down, and they were giving me lots of messages all at once. And that I just knew by looking in their eyes. Like, I mean, we all have intuition. I'm sure you have it. Have you looked in someone's eyes and thought, oh, crazy,
Yeah.
Or, oh my God, beautiful. Like you can just see the difference. That's how it felt. I just looked in their eyes and I was stunned. It's as if eternity was in their eyes, and I've
only seen that
all
once
of their
in
knowledge.
my life, Tricia. I've seen that once when my son was born, when he first opened his eyes. That was the last time I seen that. You know how they're really bright blue when they're first born a lot of times?
Yeah.
Yeah, his eyes are brown now, like mine, like greenish brown. But when he was born, they were so blue. I remember, like, wow, I thought I was looking at divinity for a second,
It's funny that you say that. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it just kind of makes sense because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I'm going to skip forward in time. About a year after my accident, I had to visit a friend who had an accident and was in that same back wing at that hospital. And I got lost, and I went through, I guess, where they deliver babies, and they had all these massive pictures of these infants. And I looked into the infants' eyes, and I started laughing in this hall as I was looking at them, and I was like, you just came from the light. Oh, I see it. And I'm sure people thought I was nuts, just like looking at these babies' eyes. But I got so excited because I could see the light in their eyes. I could really see it. And so
Wow.
That's great that you as a parent could pick up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, like back then, like I was really young, so I didn't know anything about divinity. I just know how I felt when I saw them, so I get what you're saying. Did you know that you were dead, or because we talk about like the out-of-body experience too on the show, and I've had one of those, actually, like an etherical out-of-body experience, and I wasn't dead, but
yeah.
How did you know the difference?
Okay, so here's where it happened. So I was looking at the angels, and I think at that point it was just an out-of-body experience. But then they said very clearly, and they slowed down with communication. It wasn't words. I mean, it wasn't like, it was still that telepathy, but it slowed down and kind of boomed within me. And they said, watch this. And then they sent this light through the back of the doctors, through their hands, and into my body, and my whole body lit up with light. And I knew that this intelligence would help facilitate my healing, and that the doctors would pick out the bone fragments out of my spine. I had lost feeling in one leg before going into surgery, so I was really afraid that I wouldn't run again or walk. And they were like, you'll walk, you'll run again, don't worry. And then the monitor flatlined. And as I was looking at my body, and I heard that, I recognized it from TV shows. We've all heard it. And I thought, oh, crap, I'm dead now. This is it. And so I rushed away from the angels and you just kind of, when you think as a spirit, you go out of the room. And I just didn't want to see what they were going to do with my body to revive me, because I had some sense that they would try to revive me. I mean, that's what they do on television. And I rushed out and I saw my stepdad get a candy bar out of the machine. I didn't know why I was supposed to look at him getting this candy bar, but this is why so many researchers have studied my story, as this became a verifiable detail that later, I could verify with my mom and dad that he indeed got that candy bar and came back into the room. And they were certain that I had died at that moment. And I'm sure being a parent and being connected to your son, there's a spiritual, emotional, intense connection that parents have to kids. And I'm sure that my mother and father did know the moment that I died, because they both fell to their knees and were praying out there. And then I was beginning to feel the intelligence of God. So first it was the angels who were messengers of God. And I know that you guys talk about aliens and things on your program. And years ago, I didn't know what to call the angels. I called them beings, and then I called them beings of light. And then I was like, well, they did seem to be like messengers of God. And then finally I just gave up. I was like, they're angels, whatever. But they were no longer in the picture. But I began to feel this intelligence, kind of like when you're standing under the stars and you feel the light of the moon and the stars descending on you. Yeah. God felt far away, but I felt God in some way. And I felt God calling to me. And I was like, okay, I'll listen to this. And I went out into the night sky, and I of said goodbye to everyone that I ever knew. And I think this is what we do at death. We carry so many petty things around with us in life. And then when we die, I think we just get to this place of, I love you, goodbye, have a great life. Even people we don't like, we're just in this place of, have fun. So that was what I was sending to everyone, was love. Just have a great life. If I die, if I don't come back, I wish you well. And I felt this oneness with anyone who I'd ever known, and this peace. I wanted to send this peace across Austin and Texas and anywhere where I knew people. And then after that, I transitioned into a deeper place in the night sky, which looked like the cosmos, and I felt God's light even stronger. And God's light helped me participate in this life review. And in the life review, I saw just a few moments, not a whole lot of moments. It was like my life was opened up into this book, and a few moments stood out. If I was kind, and I was often kind as a kid to animals and to people, and I was very much in touch with my faith and my connection to God and Jesus at that time as a kid. And I saw how beautiful it was that I prayed in nature, that I even meditated as a kid. I would go out and sit cross-legged and just be in nature and let animals come up close to me, because I grew up in the country. And I saw that God liked that, that God was pleased by that, was pleased by the peace that I had. And then as I became a typical teenager and young adult, I was judgmental. And if people didn't fit my mold of who I thought I should hang out with, if they didn't like the same bands or music, or they weren't in my age group, I didn't have much time for them. And I waited tables at this location, and I saw this beautiful couple, and they were worried about me. They thought I was depressed or sad, and they prayed for me. And I saw them in their nightly prayers include me in their prayers, and I was so humbled. I mean, I can't tell you how humbling that is, to look into the hearts of someone.
All of this is happening while the surgeons are trying to bring you back, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So
That's fascinating.
I was dead.
Did time feel different? Did it feel like time existed at all?
No, it didn't. Like, I know now I was dead 2.5 minutes, but it looks to me as if each section is a new chapter or something, and it's just endless time within that moment. it's hard to quantify. I mean, I could say 3 days, 3 hours, but it's definitely broken up into these 3 or 4 moments that stand alone in time.
Wow. Time
is very different. And,
this is so cool.
And that time thing is something people struggle with after near-death experiences, coming back and trying to fit into time. It becomes difficult.
Yeah, I bet. We're already at the halfway mark on the hour. At the bottom of the hour here, we're Tricia Barker. You guys, this story is pretty fascinating. More coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere.
This is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails, stores with their shelves stripped bare, ATMs can't operate, deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147, shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We are live on the Fringe FM. Tonight we're speaking with Tricia Barker. Tricia Barker had a near-death experience and wrote a book about it, Angels in the OR. And before the break, we were discussing her incident, what happened. She had left the operating room. You know, another cool thing that you mentioned that I thought, it's the details that get me, Tricia, because you're like, I saw the night sky and the moon, and I love the night sky. It's my favorite thing in the world. And the fact that you remember that stuff, the details, really gets me. And you also talked about how you met angels and they felt intelligent. And then you went to this place kind of where God was and was going through a life review. Before we get back to the life review, did you, at any point, did you start to feel emotional about your passing? Or was it easy to kind of just let go?
It was very easy to let go. I'm a curious soul. Even now, I love travel and I love adventure. And I think there's this, we stay, whatever we're like, I think in this life, we stay that way to some degree. So I was amazed. I was just flying and enjoying every moment of it and wanted to see what came next. And I felt like an adventurer in a new land. And it blew my mind. So I was not afraid.
The life review thing is fascinating because I read a book by Michael Newton. I don't know if you read it, but it was Journey of Souls, where he talks about everybody kind of goes through this life review. But did you see any characters around while you were going through this? Because that's where we left off. I'd like to pick up from there.
Yeah, so the two main characters that I saw were two people that I worked with, and they were Catholic, and they prayed for me every night, and they were a bit older than me. They were a married couple. I was a 22-year-old college student at UT, and they weren't college students. They were full-time. They waited tables full-time, and to me, in my silly teenage or, young adult brain, I thought that was boring and I didn't want to know them and I had no time for them. But when I saw that they prayed for me and they cared about me, I felt incredibly humbled. And I realized in that moment, in that life review, and this is what God wanted me to see, I believe, is that we should look into the hearts of people, that people who are good and kind are worth our time. They're worth getting to know. And it doesn't matter if they have great wealth or money or things in common with us, that when you look into the hearts of people, you know who they are. And that's what God does. God looks into the hearts of us, and he knows our intentions and what we're trying to do, even when we're misunderstood by others. And so I got that lesson very clearly, that I was to, if I was coming back to this body, I was going to live differently, and I was going to care about people on that level. And anything that I did that was self-harm was kind of brushed over, like God was just compassionate and saying, hey, be better to yourself. But I hadn't been really harmful to anyone. I just wasn't that type of person. But I saw maybe I'd disappointed someone with my self-destruction, that I had not been dependable, really. And that it wasn't like I had gone out of my way to say mean things or terrorized anyone, or I wasn't that type of person. But my life review was kind of basic in that way. And then,
well, what I've heard from other people is that you feel the emotions that you made other people feel. Is that accurate based on your experience?
Yeah, that I felt that this couple was confused by me at times. They thought, why doesn't she talk to us? Why doesn't she want to be our friend? Why does she treat us coldly and, not engage? And so I saw that even not communicating to people and just being basically friendly could hurt people's feelings. And so I saw that aloofness that I had at that time could be interpreted by others as cold and could be hurtful. And I thought, okay, then I need to come back and be more warm and outgoing and complimentary and ask people about their lives and not be so consumed with myself. And I think that that's a cause of depression for a lot of people, is that consumption of the self. And I think it's even more of a problem today that, each generation, it seems there's more narcissism and more, this focus on the self.
We just focused on our own reality at all times. Yeah, you're so right about that. For sure. Did this feel somewhat of I would think it would be like an emotional roller coaster. Did it feel that way to you?
It did. I loved the kid that I was, and I wanted to send love to that sweet child. What is strange, and I think maybe people might have the wrong impression of a life review. The life review is you're held accountable for what you do. You don't have to relive the bad things that people did to you. At least that was not my experience of God. God didn't want me to see where I was bullied or where I was abused or where I was hurt. God wanted me to see what I chose to do, because we seem to be held accountable for our actions.
So he showed you the times you were good and the times that you were not so good, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. How do you put it? It wasn't terribly judgmental. It was as if my soul was being elevated and taught lessons. Like if you've had a wonderful high school teacher or college professor, the way they guide you to think in a more mature way, I felt as if God was showing me how to be a more evolved soul in that moment. And it's, of course, God extending God's love, and that gives you a greater perspective. So that life review, I'm sure, is going to be a lot more extensive for a longer life than 22 years. But that was what I experienced in it. And then the scene sort of transitioned into a different place. But as I was transitioning from this night sky and life review, I was given large messages that came at me. And these messages were things like, love is all that matters, remind them to go to nature, be like a little child. These were a few of the messages. And then from that cosmos and that place where I had the life review, I transitioned into what I believe is a heavenly landscape. It was bright and green, and the grass was super tall and flowing in the wind. And if you can imagine, there was no harm. So there was nothing that was dying. There was nothing everything was just deeply alive and beautiful. And when I say alive, I mean every piece of grass was alive. And it's just an interesting way of seeing. This is still, I was a spirit and kind of hovering above the scene. And then I landed in a sense, and I decided that, well, God had told me to be like a little child. I'll go ahead and change my spirit form into that of a little child. And oddly, my grandfather, who had died when I was like 9, 10, actually, he was there. And most near-death experiencers, there's a researcher, Jeffrey Long, and he says that no one ever sees a live person during their near-death experience. They always see someone who's passed. And so my grandfather was the only person who had passed. Sometimes near-death experiencers see someone who died while they were in the hospital. So if their best friend from whenever, high school or whatever, also died that day, then they might meet them and transition together. Or if a family member who was sick transitions, then they'll see those people. But my grandfather looked very young, and I didn't recognize him at first. And this is a strange part of my near-death experience, and I didn't realize it was strange until people started asking me about it. But he had a truck there, and this truck was an old Chevy truck that he had left to our family, and the truck had sat in our yard and rusted and was not useful. But there in heaven, it was bright blue and beautiful and could be driven, and I recognized him because of the truck. It was perfect in heaven. And I had ridden in it when I was a kid in the back seat or in the back trailer and let my feet drag the grass. So I jumped up into the back of the cab and just the back part of the truck and just let my feet drag the grass. And I felt at peace and happy, just that kid that my grandfather knew. And I felt as if I could stay there, but he looked at me and he looked up to the light and he said, "Do you want to keep going?" And then I knew that meant God. And I can't tell you how excited I was, but every bit of my soul leapt with joy. And I thought, yes. And I went flying towards God, and I was so excited. There were prayers of people who were trying to pull me back, and I could feel the wind of one ant or another. My mother, my father, different people praying, and I knew what they were saying, but I kind of brushed it aside.
You could audibly hear prayers of people trying to bring you back?
I could, and I hope that gives comfort to people who have prayed for someone who has actually passed and transitioned.
It does.
Because I think that they will have heard your prayers and they will know that you love them, because I could feel the love. And it didn't matter to me, because I was like, those are just prayers, but there's God over there, so I'm going there. So I'm rushing towards God. And this is my favorite part of the near-death experience, because no one can imagine what it's like. Most of us have been passionately in love, or, we love our family or kids. But if you imagine all of that amplified by so much, I can't even put it into words. Every near-death experiencer falls apart at this point, and we don't know how to describe a love that makes you feel so good inside. So I felt so much joy. I'd never been loved like this. I couldn't have even imagined it. It just was the best feeling I could ever imagine. I felt safe and free and secure, safe to love too, because we look out at this world and it's kind of hard to love people sometimes. We wonder how safe they are to love, but you can love God with everything that you are, and God loves you back with everything that God is, and that onslaught of love, it still brings tears to my eyes to this day, and because I just remember how good it feels, and I don't think enough people get that feeling here on earth. We have our good days, and we have these days where, we're joyful and alive and grateful and, on, but that kind of love, that doesn't compare to anything. And so I wanted to keep going. I wanted to be close to God and to be in that love and to understand more, but I was stopped at some point, and this really made me angry because I just wanted to continue on. And God said, you're going back, look down. And there was this river, and there were all these souls that were either lit up or covered with shadows. And I knew that the shadows meant fear, that they were just not in touch with God and not in touch with the light. And God said, you have to go back and be a teacher. And I argued for a moment because I didn't want to teach. And God kind of laughed, and that was the last thing I had in the afterlife.
I want to stay here and hang out with you. Don't send me back to teach. That's boring, right? I don't want to do that.
I was like, that doesn't pay anything. I grew up poor. Are you kidding me? No, I hate public speaking. I was like, you don't know me. And God's like, ha, 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 ha.
So you said you saw a river of souls, and some that had shadows on them, and you inertly, no one told you that was fear. That's just something that you knew. I guess you just knew that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The near-death experience offers metaphors in a sense, and these metaphors seem to make sense in that realm. And here, it's sometimes harder to unpack and sometimes harder to believe that. But that was what I intuitively knew, or what was communicated to me, that anyone who's not in touch with God has fear. That, whatever that fear might be, they just have either fear of dying or, some type of fear. Or if they're coming from a place of even violence or not living right, that they're probably bombarded with fear.
This is, I don't want to take this to a negative place, but I know it's a lot of questions on people's mind. Is like, well, are we talking about the biblical God here, or did you get a sense that this God could even have a place called hell, or maybe hell was that shadow that you're talking about that's on people? Because I think a lot of that fear, even reading Robert Monroe's books, he told me that, like, I'm talking like he told me, but I read the book so many times I feel like I know the guy. But he says in the book that he would run into beings that literally thought he was there to take them to hell because they were just so full of fear. So it kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked this question, because a lot of people jump to conclusions and start judging me and say, oh, this isn't, biblical, and I don't want to listen to this. And I'm like, hold on. let's connect here. God is love. We can agree on that. And I know that I connected with God, and I know that God is the most powerful form of love. I didn't cross through that boundary, whatever it was, to know all the answers. I just know that God is love, and that God has messengers that are angels, and that God gave me a particular message of love. Well, he also gave Jesus a message of love, and it wasn't always met by others with a lot of support, you might say. There were people who were very angered by the message of love that Jesus brought back. And I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, but I am saying that I heard "be like a little child," which is biblical, and it's hard. It's hard for people to understand and experience, and then words on a page. And when you read the Bible, you use your imagination, but when you have a near-death experience, you experience it. And this was evident immediately. So here I am, after I wake up from surgery and these moments, and I was asking the nurses, I said, "Do you believe in God?" And they were very calm in their beliefs. And they said, yeah, sure. I have faith. I believe in God. And then I was exuberant going, "Well, I met him, and he's just amazing, and his energy is so powerful." And they're looking at me like, all right.
Yeah, give some more pain medicine to this one. Yeah. Right.
But, there's a difference between experiencing God and imagining God. And I've interviewed John Burke, who wrote Imagine Heaven, and I'm so grateful to him for that book, because I think he gives a lot of Christians peace, because he connects near-death experiences to the Bible. And how many times is light mentioned in the Bible? So many times. Light of this earth, light of God. Light is a predominant metaphor in the Bible.
Yeah, if thine eye be filled with light, if thine eye be single, then the whole body will fill with light. Yeah, I know that one too. I know a few scriptures. I'm from the South. I know a few of them, right? But
yeah,
I take a little bit more of I guess you could say, an eclectic approach, because I guess what the Masons would call the Masonic light, which is a lot of paths lead to God. They believe that's why they have different, books. Some lodges have Bibles, some have other things, because they all believe that it all goes back to that light. And I'm wondering if that's what you felt like. This was the ultimate source. I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So what I felt after my near-death experience, and I felt if I walked into, and this is where maybe I lose some people, but I don't mean to. If I walked into a country church and I felt the light of God there in the pastor and in the hymns and in the congregation, I was happy. If I walked into a meditation group, and people were just sitting around meditating and I felt light there, I was happy. But if I walked into a church and I didn't feel light and I felt a ton of judgment or something icky, I was out the door. And it's the same thing with a New Age group or metaphysical group. If I felt ego was too present, I was out the door. So as long as there was love, I was happy. I was satisfied. And that's all it took for me was love, because that's what I heard. Love is all that matters. And that includes a lot of people. That includes everyone and everyone across the planet. If love is all that matters, if someone is working towards being loving, if they're giving love to this world, well, then their soul is trying to be good. I mean, there's really just two choices a lot of times, and they do seem to be love or fear.
Love and fear, that's it. Yeah, a lot of people think it's love and hate, but I think hate comes from the fear of not being loved.
Yeah.
What about, can I ask you another question about the angels, if you don't mind? Because I'm fascinated with angels.
Please.
Did they have faces like ours? Like your face or my face? Did they look, or were they just beings of light?
They did have faces, and they looked somewhat androgynous to me. So they had shoulder-length hair that was curly, and if I had to go one direction or the other, I'd say masculine. But that didn't seem to be the point. Gender didn't really seem to be the point. I think some people have seen angels and the gender seemed more feminine, but they were strong, and their faces did resemble human faces, except the eyes. The eyes were just pure sources of light, and this light could be healing, it could be intelligence, it could be anything. So if you see light in someone's eyes, their eyes were just pure light, almost blinding light, just shocking light. I heard a medium talk about...
Who wouldn't want to go to this place, right? I want to go there now, just hearing about it. It sounds amazing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I heard a story about a medium. I think it was Steve Godfrey, who in a moment, in an encounter with an angel, he thought to reach out and touch the angel, and it burned him so badly, like an electric shock. And so I thought that was kind of interesting.
When you came back, did you come back instantly and just open your eyes, or do you remember coming back through levels or anything like that, or did you just come back and you're awake?
It felt like a dark wind that was sucking me back into my body, and then I felt awake when the assistant or nurse or whoever was handing me ice chips and asking me if I remembered my name. And I was different from the beginning. I mean, I know people are altered after anesthesia and say odd things, but she kept asking me my name, and I couldn't identify as just myself. I kept saying, she. I know who she is. I've come back to her, but I don't want to be her. And they said, you need to say your name. And I was like, okay, Her name is Trisha. They said, say your name. My name is Trisha. I couldn't fully identify as myself because I still felt connected to this great cosmos and everything out there. And it seemed as if I had to take back on this identity, and I didn't really want it. I didn't want to come back to me. I guess I had some premonition of knowing it was going to be hard.
So you felt Trisha was a part of you or separate from you, but you just knew who Trisha was. That's really cool. Yeah. But you got to answer them right, or they're going to put you in a padded room for a while, you know?
I know. And I got that sense. The more I kept talking about it, my surgeon was getting frustrated, and I could sense that she had a two-part feeling to it. And I was not intuitive before my near-death experience, but I was pretty intuitive afterwards. I could pick up on people's emotions pretty quickly. And she seemed on one hand annoyed because she was thinking, I'm a good surgeon and I saved your leg, and we need to talk about how successful your surgery is, not this fact that you died. I don't want to dwell on this. This is not the part of the surgery that's successful. So she was irritated on that level. But then there was also this other level of like, oh, dear God, if she keeps talking, what am I going to do with her?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guarantee you I'd be the same way. The same exact way. I wouldn't stop talking to people. Did any of when did you first know, like when you came back? Obviously, when you came back, you knew it was real. But what was the first thing that verified it with somebody else? Was it someone going to get a candy bar like you mentioned earlier, or was it something you said to the nurse? When did someone know that, hey, what she's saying might be real? When did that first happen?
For me, it was the first moment when the surgeon said, yeah, we thought we lost you for a couple of minutes, but you're fine. Then I knew that I had my verification. But when someone finally believed me, it was a neighbor who she came to see me, and she snuck in, even though family were the only people allowed in. And I told her quickly about my near-death experience, and she grabbed my hand and said, hey, I'm spiritual. I believe in these experiences. We'll talk later when you're recovering. I believe you. And I just felt this sigh of relief. I have one friend in this world who believes me. Thank goodness. This is going to be okay. I'm going to make it.
Well, a lot of people believe you now. Fascinating, too, this story. I know that when I was looking at your videos on YouTube, you had 250,000 views on one YouTube video that people were just thumbs up in this story like crazy. So I think that what you're talking about relates to a lot of people. Listen, we're at the top of the hour, guys. We're with Tricia Barker. If you want to call in and ask any questions, you can. It's toll-free numbers 1-800-588-0335. We'll be right back.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm. Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? Cannasense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. Cannasense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the costs, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, the medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and Cannasense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say due to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here with Tricia Barker. We're talking about her near-death experience in her book, Angels in the OR, and that was a really, really cool story. Don't forget, if you're listening live, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be up next. But we're also here. I want everybody to know that we're here Monday through Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight. Now, not just Monday through Thursday. We're getting all the graphics changed, so I know had a little bit of confusion there with some folks. But yeah, we're here every night, 5 nights a week. And so Tricia Barker is here with us, and I can't wait to get this book. I'll be honest with you, I hadn't got it yet. I think I'm going to get the audio book because I'm an Audible fan. I love audiobooks. And so you really go into detail in this book a little bit more about your story. But what I'm just kind of curious about what happened afterwards. Like, did you bring back with you certain things that you were able to do or see or feel that you couldn't do before this happened?
Definitely. That's such a great question. The after effects of near-death experiences are strange. And the very first one was I could read people so much better. I think the near-death experience in some ways made the connection between others clearer. So I didn't feel just like encased in my body. I could read others better, and I understood what they were thinking, maybe what they were feeling, just a little bit more about them. So that intuition was startling. It's kind of strange when you're so, I was at 22, I was so focused on myself and my energy was really closed off. And then I was more observant, and I think we're all naturally intuitive, but there was a spiritual intuition that I was given. And then after months of recovery, timelessness was really a problem. I know this sounds kind of strange, but one of the physiological after effects of a near-death experience, and this can be studied, is electrically your body changes. I could not wear a watch. I burned out 5 different watches, all different kinds, a Swatch, a wind-up watch, an antique watch, whatever it was, it could not stay on my body. And even to this day, my phone, I have to keep it plugged in. If I'm on an interview like this, I'll run the battery down. My computer will do weird things. I affect things electrically. And I teach at a college campus, and every once in a while it'll happen with the overhead board because we're connected to a computer, and like everything on the monitor will just start spinning in a real freaky way. And I'll show my students, I'm like, this is what I do. And they'll laugh, because it's not something you see typically with electronics.
Man, you burn out a wind-up watch. That's pretty impressive, because you got to have a lot of stuff flowing. That stuff still happening to you right now?
It does. When I was writing this book, I completely ruined my laptop because if I got excited, the battery would just like crash if I have high emotions, or if I am thinking about spiritual things, whether the emotions are positive or negative. Either way, my energy tends to affect electronics in some way. So I have to ground a lot, go outside and put my feet in the earth and take deep breaths and go, okay, come back to your body. But I think in some ways that shows that, we're more than this body, and our energy is real, and it is affecting even electronics.
Now, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but before all this happened, didn't you had a pretty rough, I guess, bout of depression before your experience? I'm just asking this because I'm wondering if maybe a divine source kind of stepped in and changed your path for all that.
I think so. I really do. I had kind of a tough childhood. My mom was somewhat, I know now when I was writing the book, how can you even diagnose someone who has never been in and for therapy and been diagnosed? But if I had to guess, borderline personality or narcissistic personality, or at least on that spectrum, and very, very difficult mother. And then I was an only child and poor and isolated in the country and didn't have a connection with my father. So there was just a lot I didn't even know how to process. By the time I got to college, I didn't know how to heal this stuff. And all I did was go out and be social for the first time in my life, but I was taking the drinking and partying a little bit too far, as many college students do. So I think it's a bad setup. Here you are, you have this opportunity to start learning things and becoming different and changing from your upbringing, but then you're also thrown into this party environment, and you're young, and it's exciting and fun to be liked and all of that. So yeah, that's a big part of that. But I did have major depression, and I did try to commit suicide before my near-death experience. Even being an agnostic, I just wanted out of pain. I just wanted it to end, and I took pills, and I did not. I was not successful.
And it
obviously,
wasn't.
And it didn't have.
Yeah, it wasn't long after. How long after that, though, until the wreck, you think?
That was Christmas, and the wreck happened in April, so just a few months after that. And I was consciously trying to get my life back together. I'd gone to see a counselor, and I'd started running, and I was trying to add healthy things to my life. So there was a conscious effort on my part, and I think that probably helped. But, depression is lifelong. I think Raymond Moody was someone who said that a near-death experience could probably cure someone of a personality disorder, but not if it's biochemical. So if it's borderline, or if it's bipolar, or if it's depression, that person might still have depression. So I still do have bouts of depression, but it's so different now. I'm so in touch with that love of God that I realize that it's just a hormonal thing, and I'm going through this period, and I need to be gentle to myself and kind to myself and figure out the cause and why this is happening, and walk through it in a different way and really focus on healing modalities more so than just being overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about that stuff too every time, because I come from, a very similar background as yours, except it was father for me that was pretty abusive. And every time I say something to my son now, or punish him, or even talk to him, I have to remind myself, okay, remember what screwed you up, remember what screwed you up, and don't do that to him, right? And I think we all try as parents, and going to the University of Texas, that's a big school, Longhorns. And in my experience, everybody in Texas is pretty, I'm just going to be honest with you, they're pretty good looking. Everybody I've ever met in Texas. And so when you're surrounded like in an environment like that, it'd probably be pretty easy to fall into that party life, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah, because I was shy in high school, and I didn't date much or have much of a connection. So suddenly, I'm at this massive college where my dorm has its own zip code, and my town didn't have that many people in it. So suddenly I'm surrounded by more people my age than I'd ever been around before. And so, of course, the attention was nice, and, some of it was fun and just basic socialization. But other bits of it, I was not facing part of my background and trying to heal from it. And that became obvious later.
Now, I understand that you have actually taught yourself how to lucid dream. Can you teach me how to do that tonight by any chance? I'd love to learn how to do that. Like, when, there's people that are good at it. I'm still trying to figure this thing out.
Well, it sounds like you have a little bit of knowledge about it. What you do need is some sort of marker. So I think for me, what I used was I looked at my hand. I think Carlos Castaneda, he wrote that in one of his books, that if you stare at your hand before bed and it's your anchor, and you say, if I see my hand in my dream, then I'm conscious at that point and I can start lucid dreaming. So I did that for a full month after my near-death experience and that recovery time. I stared at my hand, I meditated, I prayed, I said, I want to lucid dream. And then one night I slammed my hand in a car door in a dream, and I looked at my hand really clearly, and then I was so excited. At that point, I knew I could lucid dream, and I just created this wild dream that lasted most of the night, but it ended with flying through the sky, and I wanted to feel how great it would be to be Mozart, so I erased everything in my mind that I'd ever heard him compose, and I told myself that I was Mozart. I was that creative genius, and I felt what it would be like to compose some of his work.
Yeah, I wonder, because I'm trying to imagine myself as if I'd went through your experience, and I think that I would want to connect to that realm a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's lucid dreaming or meditation or trying to have an out-of-body experience, is that what you try to do now? Because I know I would. After that experience, I'd be like, yeah, now that I know that this is real, I want to get in touch with it more, you know?
Yeah, well, I found that I was lucky. So I was in a body cast in the 90s. This is what they did with people when they had a back accident. So I had, 4 months in a body cast and then 4 months in a brace. And I laid in bed for 4 months and read books and meditated, and I did connect with that realm. So I went to this, I didn't take painkillers. I went to this healing place, which I believe was still with the angels, and I asked them to keep working on my body. And when it got too much, I would use mind control to get out of my body for a bit and just let the healing process keep working. And I looked at it as far as visualization, and I devoured everything that was out in the 90s. So everything from Marianne Williamson, Tony Robbins, any motivational speaker or spiritual teacher, Deepak Chopra, I just devoured them. And I also found Raymond Moody, of course, and then Danny and Brinkley, Saved by the Light. And who would have thought all these years later I'd get to talk with Raymond Moody? But, you know, that at the time I wanted to pick up the phone and call him because he was the only person I knew who had studied these near-death experiences. But it was fascinating. Just I devoured everything. So, yeah, definitely my choice of literature changed completely. I went from, and I still liked reading fiction, but I certainly added spiritual material.
I got to say, I'm a little jealous because you have touched, at least touched some of the answers that we here at Lighting the Void like to ask. We're trying to figure this stuff out. Now, I don't want to have a car wreck to get there. Don't get me wrong. And people always told me, be careful what you wish for, because I've said things like, if aliens are real, come take me, come fly in my yard and take me, right? Those are the kind of things. But do you get this sense after this experience that this reality was made for some type of, like some people say life is a school, right? Or we're here because God's trying to raise us to be creators of other planets, and you hear all these theories about why are we here. Did you ever get a sense of that answer, why we're here?
The closest that I got was, and I'm a grounded, realistic person. I have one foot here on Earth and definitely, another in that other realm. But there's a lot of pain here, and I looked at who I was as a kid and who I was as this young adult, and I've spent most of my career working with young adults who at times are suicidal or at times are addicted to drugs, and I have met them with compassion and love because that's what God said to do, that love is all that matters. And I've actually seen not just my love, but the support of counseling teams and lots of people at work together who are giving a lot of love to a population of students. I've seen lives transform, in ways that would blow your mind. People who are in jail getting full rides to TCU and great jobs and changing their lives around. I've seen just miracles happen. And I know this is because of love. So when God says love is all that matters, I think we underestimate the power of how we can change this world through love. And it sounds simple and people get annoyed by it, I think because the message is so simple, but that seems to be the real answer. I guess I don't get too philosophical about things because I think there's a lot of real world problems here. And as a teacher, right, you're mired in them.
Yeah, right. Like, I think that too. I just wonder, sometimes people say that we're here because God wants to teach us something, or we're here just for the experience, or we're here to realize our own power, or even some people say that we're here by accident. And so you're saying that you get the feeling that we're just here to experience what the power of real love is and to transform the world through it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and there's more to it. The more people who wake up to their spiritual power, the better of a life they'll create for themselves. So I think there is a spiritual learning that we are here to learn and remember, and the near-death experiences, which is one way, like kind of a dramatic way to wake up. I think there are plenty of other ways to wake up, and I certainly hope that maybe just even telling my story to my students over the years, and I did tell it to every classroom, whether it was junior high, high school, or college, that maybe that planted a seed of awakening in that student to a spiritual reality and to, a deeper knowing. So I think we are here to remember our connection to consciousness beyond the body and then decide what kind of world we want to create. And I think if you're in touch with that, you want to create a loving one.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder about that because the older I get, I don't know about you, but time is really going fast. It just seems like it's going faster and faster and faster. And I'm like, why are we here for such a short time? What's this all about? I think about stuff like that all the time. And people say I'm going to drive myself crazy, but I can't help it. I mean, that's what I think about,
Do you believe in reincarnation? Do you think about that?
I do. And the most impressive evidence for reincarnation, I think, is the fact of those cases where children would take people to where their past lives were, where they were murdered and stuff like that. There's no way that a child could know these types of things if there wasn't reincarnation. But what I sometimes wonder about is, do we all get to experience that? And like you said earlier, there's a lot of, you don't want to dwell on this for sure. There is all kinds of suffering and pain on this planet. And we've even talked about things on this show like the Gnostic view of archons and some type of evil trying to control the planet. And the more, I don't know if that's true still to this day or if we're the ones that's causing it and it's up to us to transform everything. But I also get what you were saying in the beginning too. When you were a child and you would go out into the forest, because I would do the same thing, Trisha. Like I would sit in the woods and sit there and see how close I can get a squirrel to come up to me without scaring it, just because I wanted to look at it real close, And I kind of felt those things too, Squirrels are really jumpy. You got to be really still.
Yeah, so are rabbits. That's what it was for me. And the little baby rabbits came up to me.
But
yeah, it's
what, that's a tough question, isn't it? I think that's why they call it in the Bible and a lot of different other texts, they call it the mystery. Cause I think this place I honestly believe that if the mystery was gone, then it would kind of blow the whole story. It's kind of like a movie. Like if you know the ending, why are you going to watch the TV or experience the TV show? If that makes any sense.
Maybe that's why the messages of heaven are very simple, because it doesn't completely ruin the mystery. Their messages like remind them to go to nature. Well, a message like that can just be simple in that nature resets your energy and gives you peace and decreases your stress. It also puts you more in touch with God. It's easier to pray out there in nature. And then nature, too, can also be a great source of healing. If you're sick, if you look for natural cures, if you want to just get healthier, eating more organic fruits and vegetables is kind of a common sense way. I mean, there's a million different diets, paleo and keto and blah, blah, blah. But I think the basis is natural, eat a whole apple, eat a whole, piece of vegetable, then you're going to be healthier. So I think there's just common sense, and love is one of those common sense things that runs through all cultures and all people.
Yeah, some people feel like also that reincarnation is a trick, right? Kind of like you go up and you meet these entities or gods, angels, whatever they are, and they trick you to coming back here and to being stuck here. I really have a hard time believing that. Even if that was true, I just can't I can wrap my mind around it, but I can't wrap my soul around it, if that makes any sense. What are your views on reincarnation?
And that's a good point. If something doesn't hit you in a way that resonates with you, then don't worry about it. But But what resonates with me is I never considered it. And then when my father died, and he died after my near-death experience, and my dad and I got closer after I went off to college and after the near-death experience, it was a profound and moving experience for me to lose him. And at first I felt deep loneliness, but then I started getting dream visitations and messages from him. And I asked him some questions, and we started communicating because I connected with other mediums. And at first I was very afraid of that. And then I just realized, well, this is my dad and I connect with him. So what? This is what I do. And I asked him, how is your life review different? And what do you think about a reincarnation? And he didn't live a great life while he was here. And so he learned his lessons over there, and he can't wait to come back. So honestly, his soul wants to reincarnate. He's excited about it. He loves life. He was kind of a hedonist. And so some people really love the body and really love pleasure. And, they can't wait to come back and be in a body again.
Yeah, see, I get that too, because in that book, I don't know if you've read it, Conversations with God, he by Neil Donald Walsh, he asked God in that book, like, why do people keep wanting to come back? And he said, well, this is your 600 and something life. And he's like, I don't get it. Well, why do we keep coming back? And he said, because you love it all. You love the pain, you love the pleasure, you love the ride, you love the food, you love the drama, you love it all of it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I think some people are way more joyful about it than others. And my dad was one of those joyful people. So I know that to be true, that he can't wait to come back, that he's hanging on, I think, in that realm somewhat for me, but he keeps telling me, and I talked to him, he said, look, you're good. The rest of your life is set. You're on the right path. It's, you can handle it from here on out. You don't need me. You've got God. Let me come back and reincarnate. And I guess I should let him, because maybe I'll come across a baby someday and I'll be like, you're my dad.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned something that I thought that it really rang a bell with me. It was when you said it was your grandfather, right, in the truck when you passed away?
Yes.
And he was his young self in a perfect-looking truck. In Robert Monroe's books, when he went and met his father, he didn't recognize his father either. And he met his father in an out-of-body experience and said that his father had a lot of suffering, but he hugged his father, and he said he felt real emotional. And his dad told him that, look, there's no more pain. I'm happy to be here. But he looked his young self, right? Like, so it seems like everybody that goes up there, they want to make sure they look like their best self ever. And no wonder why that is. I think it just because you have that choice, right? You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting because people who start studying near-death experiences start looking back through their old photos and sometimes start deciding who their heavenly self will be. And I think that's cute. Like, oh, I like myself at 30. Oh, no, I like myself at 25. Oh, 18. But whatever, it's probably different for different people. I've heard a lot of people who died much older, they like their early 30s or mid 30s. It's when they were coming into themselves and when they maybe started a family or felt strong in some way.
Do you think that you're doing what God wants you to do now based on the life review that you were given? Do you think that you're doing what you're here to do now?
Well, I know that every time I set foot in a classroom or I set foot in a college building, my steps felt lighter. I felt joyful. I never felt unhappy about being a teacher. Every time I stepped into a classroom, I felt this overwhelming knowing that these students needed me. And sometimes it wasn't that they needed this guru or, this person on high. They just needed someone to look at them and care and say, hey, that's a good paper, or hey, let me help you write a better one, or, you really draw really well, or have you thought about college? I mean, just chat with them. They needed someone to see them and care about them. And if they were younger, sometimes they just were lost and they needed someone to say, no, it's not your fault that your parents are getting divorced. Let's talk with them and let's go ahead and have them weigh in and just students need love. Everybody needs love, but certainly students look up to teachers and professors as an authority role. And if you're in authority, you have the ability to make a difference in some way. And I was surprised, and I write about this in the book, how many teachers judge students by concert T-shirts or, their behavior. And so often I saw pretty clearly that if their behavior was bad, that was often because of something going on at home or something they misunderstood or something that, another kid was bullying them. There was always a reason behind the kid's behavior, and it was a cry for help. And I think when you see that, then you make a bigger difference. And all that self-absorption just went away the minute I was in the classroom because, there's 30 students in every class who need me. I mean, that's a lot. I can't even reach them all. That's too much work, but I can do my best.
All right. Well, we're already halfway through the show. Listen, I'll get to some of your questions in the chat rooms as well if you want to call in. It's 1-800-588-0335. We're here with Tricia Barker. Her book is Angels in the OR. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
If you are interested in occult subjects, psychic abilities, symbols, tarot, witchcraft, magic, or anything similarly related, my book Occult Arcana will provide you with a truly objective overview of these topics and more. Written in anything but modern language, Occult Arcana was compiled to help researchers balance their quest for a better understanding of the meanings of and in such studies. Occult Arcana is available in softcover and digital form from www.thesecretteachings.info. All copies can also be autographed if requested. That's Occult Arcana from www.thesecretteachings.info.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Dieter. Are the tectonic plates peeling apart in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Portugal? Using computer models, scientists say they've discovered the first evidence of what could be responsible for the birth of new subduction zones in the same area as the Great Lisbon earthquake of 1755. That wiped out the city and killed an estimated 100,000 people. But what is stranger is that it's a long way from any active tectonic faults. Marine geologist João Duarte from the University of Lisbon has been studying the seismic history there for years. The finding of his team's research were presented at the European Geosciences Union General Assembly in Vienna. One explanation for the tearing of the crust could be rock structures absorbing water, potentially triggering quakes and driving one tectonic plate under another. Oh man, talk about a grinder. While it may seem far-fetched, such a discovery could perhaps lead to an entirely new supercontinent Duarte says whether this will lead to the nucleation of a new subduction zone is still a matter of debate, and we will probably never know for sure. China is about to attempt what would be a feat of history. iSpace is making final preparations to launch a satellite into low Earth's orbit. They would be the first Chinese private company to pull it off after 2 of their competitors have failed. The launch of an unmanned payload on a 4-stage rocket is planned for June from a vessel in the Yellow Sea between China and the Korean Peninsula. iSpace has goals of sending 20 satellites up this year as it plans to build a constellation of 138 remote sensing satellites in low Earth orbit. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Tricia Barker from TriciaBarkerNDE.com. I got that right, didn't I, Tricia? Isn't that your website, Tricia Barker?
You did.
Good.
Yes, thanks.
I've messed that up so many times on the show, and I hate when I mess up websites and stuff. You have an online summit coming up with people like Ray Moody and others coming up real quick, and that ought to be pretty interesting. I think I might go to that. When is that going to be?
Well, if you join, and you can find this through University of Heaven, which is Raymond Moody's site, or my website, but if you type in the second annual online Near-Death Experience Summit, then you'll see the list of speakers, and all of the videos are available. But what's really cool is on June 23rd from noon to 3 p.m. Central Time, you can ask Raymond Moody, Dr. Jeffrey Long, who wrote A God in the Afterlife, Paul Perry, who's co-written so many books on near-death experiences, Lisa Smart, Eben Alexander, Karen Newell, Nancy Rhines, Leslie Lupo, Dr. Tony Chicoria, so many amazing near-death experiencers. I'm just fascinated by some of these stories. David Ditchfield and Tony Chicoria came back with musical abilities. So they both have played and for the BBC, and they didn't necessarily have musical abilities like that. David Ditchfield wrote a full symphony. He was hit by a train, pulled underneath a train in London, and came back and heard this symphony that he needed to compose and composed it, and it was, got a standing ovation. So there's just these stories. I think God's just showing off, really, with some of these stories, like, look what I can do. And one thing that really fascinates me, too, is so many of the experiencers, like Leslie Lupo and Jose Hernandez, they focus on healing in some way. They have this mission to help heal the planet. So I feel humbled to work with these researchers. But for people who like to call in, like on radio shows, you have 3 hours to simply ask questions of Raymond Moody and Eben Alexander and get some of your questions answered if you've read their books. So I think it's kind of a neat idea. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Raymond Moody is definitely somebody I'd love to talk to, so I might actually take advantage of that so I can ask him a few questions. Now, here's kind of a, like I said, I don't want people to take this negative, but I do want, because I really believe you had an experience, Tricia, and after somebody's had an experience, kind of like I had an out-of-body experience, I kind of know when people are telling the truth about it. How do you tell if somebody's telling the truth about their near-death experience? Because let's face it, some people do make stuff up, right? And is there a way that you know that they're not being honest with you about it?
You know, I've reflected on that after 2 years of interviewing people now on my channel and now listening to a lot of different people. I started listening to my own intuition. And one thing that I noticed is when I hear a story, I can pick up on the emotion and especially the energy of it. And many times I've been blessed by hearing these near-death experiences, and I'll go meditate afterwards, and I'll feel the presence of God, or I'll feel those angels. And I think there's, as Kenneth Ring, a researcher, says, there's a benign virus that you can catch from being around near-death experiencers. They bring a little bit of God back. And other people have said when you're at an IANS conference, and so many people, so many near-death experiencers are all in one place, it's the closest little bit of feeling like home or heaven, because you really get a sense of that light that people are bringing back. But yeah, there are perhaps occasionally, and then rarely, hopefully, sick personalities who want attention, and it's probably not the best way to get attention because you're surrounded by a lot of intuitives, for one, so eventually people are going to pick up on that not being true. But initially, you get a lot of probably attention for talking about it, and people who want attention. I think in this day and age, as you mentioned, my first video has a lot of YouTube views. My channel isn't monetized, but perhaps someone might go out there and try to tell a story like that to get a lot of views. And that's unfortunate. But I would say to people, when you're listening, we all have intuition. We're picking up on things that our subconscious is aware of and our conscious mind isn't. And if you're picking up on something that makes you feel uneasy, then either that's not the right person for you, you just don't vibe with them, or maybe there's something that's off.
Yeah, for sure. I get that way in this community about a lot of things. Like I kind of get upset at the fact that certain people aren't being honest, because not just because I want to know the answers, but I think when people have had a real experience, it kind of takes away from that, I think. And of course, you've got to always know that someone's always going to fib about something. So I kind of let it go too. So I see that as well. Let me look into, okay. So I got an email here. I'm sorry, a text, not an email, that's asking, when you went to where God was, did the love feel like that it was unconditional? Because the Bible teaches us that it's conditional. Does that make sense? Did it feel like there were conditions? It was total unconditional love.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I'd probably need to look at the Bible verse, because oftentimes God is described as love. So the energy of God is different from the life review or the experiences of others who've had near-death experiences and have gone to hell. That's a pretty small percentage of people who have had hellish near-death experiences. But in the presence of God, what it was absolute joy, absolute peace, absolute bliss. And being near God, how could that not be blissful? How could that not be the best experience of one's life? And I often tell people who are so doubtful and so afraid that, my experience isn't exactly biblical. And I did actually encounter that a few times, and people said, oh, in a YouTube channel, you'll get some of that. People will say, oh, that's just Satan masquerading as God. I go, no. My soul is smart enough to know the difference. And I know that my soul encountered God, and that love blew my mind and changed my mind and my life forever. So yes, I did encounter God. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, well, I'm sorry. But I encountered God, and God was incredibly loving to me in that moment.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I remember reading Neil Donald Walsh, and he was really mad at who, I guess God was talking to him. I don't know. But he says in the book that, he said, why don't you come down here that's unmistakable? Why don't you show everybody who you are? And he said, well, what form would you have me come in? He said, in a form that's undeniable, And then God answered him and said, well, I'm doing so right now. And he said, where? And he goes, everywhere you look, He said, no. I mean, in a form that would be undeniable. And he said, well, if I do that, if I came down, if I looked at you or some altruistic being of light, there would still be some people that would say it was the devil or it was a trick, Like there's no way around it if you think about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that my soul knew with 100% certainty that was God. I'll never doubt that. I know it, and I still feel God work in my life, and that's what maybe can strengthen other people's faith. Is that I do pray. I have had encounters with the Spirit of Jesus in a church, and I write about this, and I do feel the love from the other side still coming through and still working and in beautiful ways. And this is where I said at the beginning of the program, this will make some people angry that love is, hey, let's love everyone. And I think that many of churches, though, do say, love the sinner but not the sin. And really, if you're focusing a little bit more on that, you'll see lives change. You'll see people have greater faith. You'll see these changes, and you'll see that love is the most powerful source, that it's not judgment. It's not judging me. It's not judging someone else. It's love.
Yeah, the whole idea of sin to me is something, because if you think about it, right, like if you got a kid, and like I do, it's not really the sin that bothers you so much. It's, and don't get me wrong, it is. Like if I caught my son stealing or doing something bad, but it's really more about the consequences of what he's doing that bothers me. Because I love him, right? I don't want bad things to happen to him. And when he does things, they have certain consequences, right? And that's what I think about. It's not just the act of sinning. I think people got the wrong idea about that. I think it's all about cause and effect sometimes. When you do this, these things happen, right? So that's why if somebody that loves you, say God or whatever, probably doesn't want you doing certain things because he loves you and he don't want bad things to happen to you, I'm getting all kind of woo-woo-y right now. Hey, now. Sure am.
No, it's great. It's wonderful.
What do you think the biggest lesson that you learned from all this was, though? I mean, because you've come back with gifts, you had crazy experiences, talked to angels in the presence of the Almighty. You say you're a different person now. What is the biggest lesson that you think that you learned out of all this? If there was a lesson to learn, I guess.
That's a good question. I think at different times in my life, it was a different lesson. But if I had to say overall, I would just say that spiritual reality and that knowing of that spirituality, if anyone is in pain in any way, that I really do hope that these stories, my story, other near-death experience stories, help people connect with God in a more real and energetic way and understand the consciousness outside of their body. Because once you're certain of that spiritual reality, then there's a lot more healing that can happen in your life for emotional wounds, for physical pain, for all sorts of things that we deal with in body, for traumatic things in the past. I have literally felt God move away certain traumas and certain wounds within me as if it had never happened. Like I have been crying and begged God to help me with something, and then 5 minutes later I'm laughing and I can't even remember hardly the event, and all triggers and trauma that's connected to that event is just gone. I mean, God is that loving, and God wants us to feel that. I'm sure lots of believers and lots of people in a spiritual path have these moments of transformation, but it can really happen for us. I mean, there's so much more that's possible when it comes to healing.
Right on. All right, so I'm going to get to the real nerdy questions here, and I got to ask. Okay. when you were going up when you were ascending and you said you saw the stars and the moon, when you were looking down, did you see the planet, or did you see any type of, I don't know, interface or threshold or something where you went through any type of barrier, or did it just happen so fast that you really don't remember?
It transitioned for me really quickly. Like there was a dark void, and then it just kind of transitioned almost like that tunnel that people talk about. But I have interviewed other near-death experiencers, and one of my early interviews was Daniel Garreau, and he got a lot more visuals about galaxies and the cosmos and the Earth, and saw a whole lot more in that sense, almost like he was out in space looking down and for a while, and several near-death experiencers have said they were suddenly out in space.
Yeah. See, that's the nerdy questions. That's what all the space people like me want to know. Like, where's that? Because I mean, even in the news, they're talking about this bullet that's ripping through the galaxy right now, almost like a wormhole or something. So I've got a lot of questions about space. I really don't think it is what we think it is. I think there's doorways out there somewhere, you know.
Yeah, and if you're interested in another near-death experiencer, I've mentioned him once, but I interviewed Howard Storm, and he asked some pretty intense questions in heaven, and he got some answers, so it was pretty interesting. Howard
Storm. I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, because I'm kind of interested in the geeky stuff. I think we all are a little bit. How did your parents, do your parents believe you now? Do they think that you really had an experience?
Well, my father always believed me. And so my father, he's dead now, but we talked about it. And when he was transitioning and dying, I told him my story again. And he said, Tricia, I'm good. God and I are good. I know where I'm going. There is no worries. You know, he said, I'm going to hear a trumpet playing and a full percussion band playing for me. And there's going to be a celebration. He's like, I'm fine. And I know that my dad had faith, and we had this connection after he died. And my mom and I mentioned in the program, had a difficult relationship growing up. And she's one of these people that if you're around her long enough, you can convince her to think like you. And so when I was around her a lot and I started talking about my near-death experience, she believed me. But then when she started going to her church, she was very adamant, her minister, that if the near-death experience didn't meet exactly these biblical, markers, then it was not of God. And so she started questioning my experience. And even though there was that verifiable detail of seeing my stepdad getting the candy bar, she thought I just had an out-of-body experience, and that what I'd experienced was not of God. And I worked very hard on her for a while. I was like, Mom, look, same thing. I know God, and just judge my life, look at how much I love teaching, and look at that. But I think there was a part of her, and I don't know if it's narcissism or what it is, that wants to believe that she knows and no one else does. And sometimes people get into that, like, oh, I'm right, I can't believe this other person, because they don't want to just open their minds a little and go, maybe I don't know everything, and maybe there is something to learn from near-death experiences. But
they get stuck in the what the Bible says, right? The Bible says this, so it can't be that way. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we don't have much of a relationship. She's a prepper, for doomsday and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that just came out called Educated, about someone who grew up with that type of mom, and she wasn't like that when I was growing up. But it's an interesting mindset. It seems to be set around a lot of fear. One thing I always remind my students is, hey, if we're preparing for an end of the world scenario, a little bit of prepping is fine, but you better learn how to work well with others. That's going to be a good skill.
Yeah, that might be the most important thing, right? You can get all the water and canned goods you want, but if you can't get along with somebody, you're going to have some real problems, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's a good trait to focus on. But yeah, I get that. I get frustrated, honestly, Trisha, about that, because I know from my own experience, and I don't know everything, but I know from my own experience that this universe can, and everything that's in it, and the creation and all of this stuff just cannot be narrowed down to a book. And I don't care how thick the book is or how dramatic the words are. I'm not taking anything away from the Bible. I think it's a magical text, and there's all kinds of metaphor and even a little bit of history and scattered history in there. But I think that this whole thing is much bigger than what we perceive. I mean, even Christ spoke to people in parables because he knew they didn't understand. So it's kind of like when you're trying to teach a kid about electricity. You open a nursery rhyme book and say, look, you touch this, it's bad, right? Tell a little story so they understand it, kind of thing. That's what I think.
I have to say that I agree, and I think that our understanding of the universe and the heavens, I mean, just if you look up at the stars, there's so much that is unfathomable, and how can you put that into a book? How can I describe the experience of God and put that into words? That, of course, we're going to struggle with that. And someone brought up an interesting point in one of these forums that I'm a part of, these near-death experience forums. Someone said, well, you know, none of the prophets, Jesus included, created the religion around them. So it's the people who are around Jesus who created Christianity. But I connect with the energy of Jesus, and I've felt Jesus, and I know Jesus to be real. But Jesus is very loving and very compassionate and very closer to the parables. I think, what you find that is repetitive in the Bible, those parables, is closer to the energy of Jesus.
Yeah, I think a lot of those people, too, have even admitted to me that when they've had nightmares or bad paranormal experiences, when they get in a real desperate situation, and even Robert Monroe said he did this, they call out to Jesus. Isn't that funny? And it ends up working.
No. Oh, yes. And, I've discovered that on my own, too, that, these last couple of years of interacting with mediums and other people, that when I get a little nervous about someone or something, or I feel like, ooh, is this entity good or not? It's always Jesus I'm calling for, and it's cleared.
Yeah. Mine's usually like, help me, Jesus, deal with this, please. That's what mine usually is. But I got to ask you this question, and I hope you say yes, but if you don't, I'd rather know the truth. Do you think when you're lucid dreaming, like the dream world, because like I said earlier, off the air, I was telling you how we talk to people that do dreaming, people that do shamanic experiences. Do you think that the dream world is connected to that spiritual world that you perceived? Is there some type of connection there, or is it totally separate?
I have to say that there is a connection, and I've even proven this with a couple of people who can also lucid dream. So I've met two different people in dreams, and we both remembered it. And
really?
To me, that's kind of proof. That's fascinating, that if you know someone who lucid dreams often and you are aware of it, then then you can meet each other in some way and remember some of the details. I've also heard other people who do this say that they've felt someone who they didn't want in their dream, and then they knew that this person was thinking of them or trying to connect with them, and they were like, get out of my dream world.
Oh, man. Can you talk about that at all, or is it too personal? Because that stuff fascinates me.
Yeah, so this one friend of mine, I ended up in his dream, and I didn't understand it because it was his dream. So my consciousness was just following him through his dream, and it was like this CIA type of dream where he was trying to figure out, where to put these cords and figure out, what to do next. And it was some kind of mystery, and I was just following him through the dream. And at some point he turned around and he said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "I don't know. I guess I'm just in your dream and I'm just following you." and so we talked about that, and he remembered, going, "Whoa, that was weird that you were there. You didn't seem to fit into the scenario of the dream." And I thought it was funny,
If that ever happens to me, I'm done. I'm done for, because all I'm going to do is try to keep doing that again. I think that is the coolest thing in the world, to be able to travel in the dream world, astral world, whatever you want to call it, with other people and actually recall what other people are thinking. I think that is absolutely amazing. I want to be able to do that. Please help me learn how to do that. You just did that by accident, you think?
Yeah. There's no. We talked about it. So this friend of mine was fairly good at lucid dreaming and meditated a lot, and so we tried to connect in that way. And another just funny story, and I've connected with a hawk in meditation, and I felt the hawk, just come toward the earth and grab its prey. And I was talking with someone who heard a story about people outside a meditation center, and these monks meditated frequently, and sometimes they'd go with the birds, and they'd go fly with the birds as well. Their soul, for whatever reason, could connect with that bird and fly with them. Well, one time, one monk tried to enter a bird, and another monk was already in that bird. He was like, "Get out of my bird!"
Oh my
I thought that is really funny. In Texas, maybe not everyone's meditating, so the hawks are pretty free.
Well, Robert Monroe talked about actually pinching somebody in this realm. And you know what? We're at the top of the hour. So we're getting into the good stuff too. We got to take a break here. I'm Joe Roop. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Dick Kahn will be on the program. That's another one we wanted to talk to. He has the book, I believe it's called My Occult Mind in the DMT Experience. We're going to have some more fabulous guests on this week. Tonight, we're here with Tricia Barker, and we're talking about her near-death experience as well as her book, Angels in the OR. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening. Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
This is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up, because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in. The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're here with Tricia Barker. We're talking about her book, Angels in the OR, and the near-death experience. And I'm so glad that you did get the book on Audible. I guarantee you, Tricia, I got like 60 audiobooks, because at night when the show's over, usually I don't turn the TV on. I'll continue working, and I'll turn on an audiobook. And now the Ears is there. Everybody needs to go get it. And you guys, think about this. You can get it for free, too. If you really want to know all the details about Tricia's story, you can go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio and get a free Audible trial and get the book for free. What about that? See? So do that. And everybody will be happy, I think. But can you tell us the date when you're having that online summit again? Just for my purposes. I'm being selfish. I forgot to write it down.
Oh, yeah. So if you go to my website, our University of Heaven's website, Tricia Barker, Tricia, Tricia, Barker, NDE.com, there's information, but it is June 23rd from noon to 3 p.m. Central Time, and you can ask Raymond Moody, Aben Alexander, Paul Perry, Dr. Jeffrey Long, so many near-death experiencers questions in an online forum, and get your questions answered. And Raymond Moody's, he's fun to interact with. It's been a great joy creating this summit with him and Lisa Smart. And
are you there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, it just cut off real quick. I was like, oh no, I hope I didn't lose her. So
sorry, my signal isn't very good sometimes.
That's all right. You're in Texas. I'll forgive you. You know, I'm just kidding. Earlier we were talking about how people could go with each other in dreams and stuff, and I'd asked you, do you think that realm is connected? And I'll tell you, the reason why I think that realm is connected, I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with Carl Jung at all, and any of his work?
Oh yeah, I'm a psychology minor. I love it.
Well, of course you are then. So I think he was on to something, right? How that world is connected to even the physical world, and that you can learn like how to live your life better and how to interpret symbols in your dreams to answer the questions, or vice versa. I just really think that it's connected. And if you are actually having experiences with other people in their dreams, then it's got to be connected, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just hoping too much. I want it to, because I'm a nerd, I think.
Well, I think that the fact that I connected with someone in their dream shows that my consciousness during sleep is connecting with someone else's consciousness. And so that we're creating something together. And that's interesting. That's fascinating. That's a new level of understanding how consciousness works. And Yeah, so as far as Carl Jung and the symbols and interpretations and things along those lines, I think that there's so much potential for understanding yourself better for looking at dreams. And they say people who have more intuition and more psychic ability, more mediumship ability, dream more often. So really the sensitive people of the world dream more often. And that makes sense to me.
How many
They're just
people,
remembering it.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Remembering everything that you did. I got the craziest dreams sometimes. Yeah, I don't want to get too far into that, but I keep dreaming about tornadoes. Is that a bad thing, you think? I have a dream at least once a week about tornadoes now. And I could be doing anything, like anything. Doesn't matter. I could be having a dream about fishing. I could be having a dream that I don't know, playing with G.I. Joes, whatever. And all of a sudden, a tornado comes out in the dream and just shows up, and I'm trying to run from the thing. Like, it's not just a dream about a tornado. They just keep showing up. And now I keep looking at the weather every day, and we're in tornado season. I was telling you that before the broadcast. It's kind of freaky, right? Like, you see all in Tornado Alley where we're at. I know some are going through Oklahoma right now. I think maybe I just got a fear of tornadoes.
Well, so here's the thing. Sometimes reality gets interwoven into dreams, and that seems to be like something that's playing in your life. But if you want me to just use intuition, and I do that sometimes, like this may ring true to you or may not, but I'm just hearing it's okay to feel grounded and okay that something isn't going to come and throw everything off, that the more you just focus on your feet on the ground and your place in this world, then the less worried you are about these outside events or catastrophes.
I see what you're saying. You're getting right into the symbolism. Very good. Yeah. Because I'm thinking physical tornado, like a real one, Like I don't want to get tossed away by we get like 9 or 10 tornado warnings here a year. I've had 2 come really close, and I've always thought that, and when I look at my dream journal, I always thought, well, maybe it's because we had one that was really close and I got a fear of it. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's a symbolic thing, because I do worry about stuff like that. That makes sense. See, I'm learning from you already.
Cool.
What are you going to do? Are you going to write any more? Is this going to be your only book, The Angels in the OR? Do you plan on doing any more books?
Well, what I have planned is I have faculty leave from the college where I teach, and I want to help college students take control of their lives. And a lot of them don't read, so this is going to be a shorter book. This is going to be a book with just great quotes and helpful tips. But there's a ton of books out there about college success, but I want to bring some of these questions into the real world for students. So how do you heal from your past? How do you get over a fear of dying? Just, answer a variety of questions for college students. And how do you be successful in this world? What can you learn from motivational speakers, from those who focus on thought creation and positivity, and give them some tips and things to think about. So that's my next book. And I probably will not write another memoir or write anything necessarily in the spiritual community again. I think this will be it. This is the story that I wanted to tell and I'm asked to tell. And after that, it's going to be poetry, fiction, and nonfiction to help college students.
And you've interviewed, like you said earlier, a lot of people that have had these experiences. Do you think that people don't want to talk about it, or more and more people are coming out to talk about this now?
I think that there's a variety of experiences. So some people feel as if their experience wasn't profound enough. Maybe they had just an out-of-body experience during surgery and they saw their surgeons operating, and then they hear a story like mine or someone else's that goes on for a long time, and they still are changed by that experience. I don't think that one experience should diminish another, because like I said when we first started talking, those first moments out of my body, I was convinced of a spiritual reality. So even just a glimpse into that realm is life-changing, and it's fascinating. But there's a variety of people, some who wait 20 years to talk. But I think since more and more people are talking now, like any other subject, mental illness chat boards, and people are more open about all kind of subject matters. So I think more and more people are integrating their experiences sooner because of all the discussions like this and the podcast and the books and all that's out there.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I'm kind of that way. Like, I've had some experiences I still haven't talked about that I'm afraid to talk about because I don't want to be judged. I don't want people to think I'm crazy. And I like asking questions, and I know a lot of people think I'm weird, but I ask those questions to kind of maybe validate my own experience. And I feel like, Tricia, that word experience is what's really true to us. I mean, we can pick up a text and read a book about anything, right? But the truest thing that we really have in our life is our own experience. That's the one thing I think is more real than anything. And a lot of times we'll push away our own experience because maybe a book or something says that we're not right. And I struggle with that. I don't think that's right. I think we can learn more from our own personal experience than anything.
Yeah, those first few moments out of my body and that near-death experience convinced me there was nothing that would ever change my mind after the experience. I mean, it's laughable to even think of not believing in a spiritual reality after being there. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It's something I just knew to be true.
Now, this is kind of a deep question, right? But I'm wondering, do you think, because when you said you came back to the operating room, that you said, I know I'm supposed to be Trisha, or you were speaking about Trisha in a third person, so, kind of. Do you think you came back as who you were before, or do you think you're the same person?
I was dramatically changed by that love of God. That much I know, that I was introverted before and extroverted to some degree after the experience. I feel driven to talk with others and hear their stories, and there isn't that same shyness or that same self-consciousness. But I think that is because I felt this oneness with other people and this connection with them, and I saw that it wasn't helpful to be that way. But I had those thoughts, and I had a couple of people put the theory forward that when one soul is ready to exit, and I had tried to commit suicide before the near-death experience, another soul might enter. And I don't think that that's what happened, but I feel that I was given a lot of new information, or upgraded, or, given downloads, whatever you would call it, in that heavenly realm, so much so that I was hardly recognizable to myself. I mean, the only thing that was recognizable was I had some of the same interests. I liked reading and poetry and nature, and there were still some essential things that were true, but I was definitely different.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder about that. I didn't want to ask it because I don't want people to say, oh, okay, that's just too crazy, right? But when you were talking about that, like, I'm supposed to be Trisha or whatever, I was thinking, well, maybe you came back as somebody else. Not like you're actually not Trisha on this planet, but you know what I mean. A lot of people talk about that. Yeah. Like something else steps in, and we're all just consciousness anyways, so it's not. It's that kind of scares people because people want to think that they're individuals, right? They don't want to think that they're just a little piece of light broken off from a bigger piece of light. They want to feel like they're individuals, separate from everything. So there's no way anything else could have stepped into their body. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think other things could. I mean, I've heard some crazy stories, and I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, I still think I'm me, but the change of that environment was so dramatic that like I said, I could hardly recognize myself. The before and after, I even looked different in pictures, and we didn't take enough pictures in the 90s, but I looked pale and kind of sickly, and my eyes looked dark in some pictures before the near-death experience, and then afterwards, my eyes look different. They're full of light, and I can see it. And it kind of blew my mind that, in just a year, I would look that different in pictures.
You know what? it's not hard to get depressed in the 90s. Think about the music, right? Nirvana, REM, like Pearl Jam. It gets depressing. The music itself, like rock was cool in the 80s, and it went from like Motley Crue to, I don't know, Losing My Religion, depressing music somehow. There was some kind of weird shift there. I don't know what happened.
There was, and a lot of heroin overdoses and a lot of, Kurt Cobain, he died just a few months before my near-death experience, and that was a real marker of the 90s.
Yeah, that's happening now, but on a different level. And I don't know if you've talked to anybody about this or helped anybody with this, but the opiate addiction thing is bad right now. It's, I had my own struggles with that, and people that you wouldn't imagine that have issues with this, people you never would have thought are having addiction to opiates, are becoming addicted to these substances. And it's very hard to break out of that. And I think it takes something spiritual to break out of that kind of addiction. That kind of addiction is more than mental. You know what I mean?
I do. And I think that is one of my callings, is to reach out to people who are struggling in that way. And I think the angels protected me from an addiction like that, because I had an addictive personality, but for whatever reason, after coming out of surgery, I couldn't take a single painkiller. I vomited no matter if I ate milk or cheese or food. I could not take painkillers. So 9 days after surgery, I'm back home, and my back was red hot, intense, and I had to learn how to get out of body through meditation and work on that healing. And I'm not saying that everyone should go through something that extreme, but I think there is some beauty in feeling a little bit of your pain and realizing that your body is going to get better. And if you adjust to a certain level of pain, then when it starts getting better, you are feeling happy because you're realizing you're making progress, and you're sending conscious energy to that part of the body that is in pain, and it's beginning to work on it. And I think people should get off the painkillers that they're prescribed earlier than later. That if the doctor says 10 days, try 5 days. Try a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. I got to tell you guys, I mean, it was rough. There's no way that I would have gotten away from that without some type of divine intervention, some type of reaching out for help. And I think a lot of people feel like they're on their own because there's so much pressure, right? Trisha, you got the bills, you got family, you got your own problems, mental stuff, everything under the sun. And I think a lot of people, one of our biggest problems, especially nowadays with all the technology and stuff, is we're just afraid to go to somebody and say, hey, man, I got a problem and I need help, because you think they're going to say, well, I've got my own problems, right? But
yeah,
people will help you.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's the same thing I say to people who are suicidal or who have an addiction, that so many times you think no one will help you. And I'm not saying hotlines are the answer, but sometimes your neighbor or your cousin or your friend, or you just start reaching out. And if one person isn't of help, you'll eventually get connected to the right counselor, the right group, or the right person who is going to help. And even though it takes some humility and it takes some effort to do that, it is worth it, that we're way more connected and people care more than you think they do.
I think you got it easier than the rest of us. I'm just going to be honest with you. I know that the wreck was hard, and that had to have been traumatic. Obviously it was, but now, right? So, I mean, I'm kind of jealous. Like, you don't have, I mean, right? You don't, it's not a belief thing anymore. There's something after this life. There's nothing to really fear, and that you're going to be okay, without a doubt. Do you feel that way now?
I do. I feel absolutely no fear of death, none at all. I don't like physical pain, but I do feel a connection to God, and I feel a connection to my dad and my grandfather and grandmother who are over there. I know that their love goes on. I feel them the same way I feel God. This energy of love, it does not die. It goes on, and that we can rest assured in, that we stay connected to our loved ones, and we are connected to God through love. But yeah, I don't doubt. That would be impossible to doubt.
You have no doubts whatsoever anymore. Yeah. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a car wreck to get there or die. Don't get me wrong, but I am jealous of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question here I got to ask. It was way down over on Spreaker. I think it was Spreaker. I was writing them down. This one is, did you have any flashes of a past life by any chance? Or did you ever, while you were going through these experiences, remember a life that wasn't this life?
A lot of near-death experiencers have that, but what I found is I didn't see that in my near-death experience, but when I came back and I was working on the East Coast, I started remembering another life, and this life ended in Boston, and I was working in Boston, and anything that was built before the 20s, so anything, and it's a pretty old city, so there are some streets and parts of town that were built before the 20s. I knew it. I didn't have to look at a map. I just knew it, and I remembered. I wish I could have found the house, but I remember in my memory being this woman who lived with alone because my husband had died, and I had this marble floor, and I gave away money to artists. I had money in that life, and I was excited for their future, and there was something about the East Coast and Boston that I knew was a place I'd lived before.
Wow, that's so cool. That is so cool. Well, listen, I know you got to go. I really appreciate you hanging out with us late nighters here. This is where all the cool people hang out, by the way. So I hope we get to hear you on some other late night shows.
Loved it. It was so much fun. It was a great entry to late night radio. Love it so much. Thank you. You have a great show.
Yeah, and real quick, where do people follow you on social media? Go ahead and please, by all means, plug away so everybody can find you and follow you.
Yeah, I would love it if you found my YouTube channel, which if you type in YouTube, Tricia Barker, Near-Death Experience, Healed by the Light, or just Tricia Barker, Near-Death Experience, you'll probably find my channel pretty easily. And then my website is TriciaBarkerNDE.com. I have a Facebook page, Instagram. But really, yeah, I would love it if you bought my book, Angels in the OR, and I love hearing from readers who enjoy it. Right now, it's only been out a month, so it's been a joy to hear from people, and I have the summer off as a professor, so I have a little bit of extra time to chat with readers, but I'm going to start doing some Facebook Live Q&A, kind of virtual book tour stuff, so it'd be fun to connect with you there.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. It's been a blast talking to you. It really has. Thank you.
It has been so much fun. You feel like a new friend, but thanks.
Definitely. All right, guys. That was Tricia Barker. We'll be right back with some afterthoughts. We'll take your questions, too. Don't go anywhere.
Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on The Fringe FM.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you, the 4 forms of curses and attacks, how to remove self-imposed curses, the correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities, how to make your own holy water, what you should always keep near or under your bed, herbs that banish negativity and promote purity, the most powerful banishing rituals on the planet, and for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Roop, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
I want to thank Tricia Barker for coming on the program. Fascinating story. It's been a very long time since we've had anybody talk about a near-death experience on the program. And I've got to thank my producers, Don and Patrick, for helping get Trisha on the program. And speaking of which, if you have a guest suggestion and you would like to get on the program, you can email producer@thefringe.fm. You could also email Patrick@thefringe.fm and or Don even at thefringe.fm if you have a guest that would like to be on the program. And tomorrow night, Dick Kahn's going to be here. I'm very excited about that because he wrote the book, My Occult Mind and the DMT Experience, or The Occult Mind and the DMT Experience. Now, look, I know here lately we've been talking to a lot of people about this experience, but it's not because I believe that the DMT experience is the all of everything. I'm just trying to look at the parallels between certain things. So if you've listened to the show, then I really don't need to explain that. But for the new listener, I want you guys to know that we talk about everything weird and strange and spiritual and metaphysical, all of it here, because I don't think you can get to the answers with just one subject. And on that note, Tricia hit on a lot of things that I think are important, because I kind of got the vibe that some people might think that this was a biblical or Christian type show. And I asked that question in the beginning for that reason. And, but people get that idea. And I think William Buellman was right, because when he came on the program, he told me that, everybody has what they believe to be real as far as their spiritual beliefs, how they were brought up, what's going to happen to them after they die. And if you listen to any of his books, his audio books on the out-of-body experience, then he tells you that he passed through several different realities. He even passed through where people were at a place that looked like heaven and they were going to church and things like that. So, but it doesn't, and I want to be real clear about this too, that doesn't negate that it's real. And I think that's where we mess ourselves up. Now, I don't know, but this is all just theory to me, but I think that's where we really get ourselves into a bind, is we get real polar minded about it and say, well, if someone believes in the biblical God and they have that heaven or hell experience when they die, that it's not real because they made up that reality. But what is reality? I mean, if we truly are creators of our own reality, then we can't say any of this stuff isn't real. And think about it. If you are a spawn of the Creator, and all of the guests that I've had on that talk about this light or this source or this cosmic being or wherever they came from, they all talk about how we're the type of, I guess you could say, offspring, for a better lack of a word to that we're the children of God. I hate to say it like that way. I don't really hate to say it that way, but that's the best, I guess, phrase I can use. And if you are a child of God, then you're of God or the creator or source, then you probably create your own reality. And what does that mean? And that's a lot of responsibility, isn't it? I mean, we don't want to think that we're creating our own hells, our own situations. We'd like to think that everything that happens to us is, especially when it comes to the bad stuff, is somebody else's fault. Now, I know certain things are out of our control, and I think about this quite a bit. But I really do believe that we manifest things with love and fear. That's our biggest power. Because if you look at everything in nature, it's kind of just doing its own thing. It's taking its own course. The trees, the plants, the rocks, the universe, the stars. It's all a big, massive cause and effect. Unless you're a human. I think we study magic and stuff, and we'd like to think about it as far as like Harry Potter and Star Wars and all the science fiction stuff, Game of Thrones and dragons. But the real magical power that we have is that we're the one thing that I know of in nature and in the universe that has a choice. Now, I guess you could say animals have a choice, but, you know, I don't know about that. I've let my cat outside when it was chasing girls, and, yeah, you wasn't going to get it to do anything different unless you trapped it. But we have a choice, and choice is power. And I think when we choose to love something, we bring more of that in our life. And I think when we choose to fear or hate or get upset about something, that we definitely manifest more of that in our life. Now, this isn't my theory. I didn't just come up with this out of the wind. I know it sounds real woo-woo, but we got this idea that we're in a prison planet and that there's archons controlling everything. And maybe they are, but you ever think about, like, maybe they're just doing their job, almost like, I'm not making excuses for them, but almost like Saturn does its job in metaphysics, or the word no does its job, or a wall does its job, right? Maybe it's just doing its job. Who knows? I don't have the answers to the archon thing yet. We did talk about Gnosticism quite a bit, and we'll go back down that road. But I think you make a choice, honestly. Like, the more people I talk to, like Trisha, I've talked to over 300 people, I want to say, or more on this program. And I'm starting to feel like that all this comes down to choice. There's a lot of things going on we can't control. Like there's tornadoes blowing into Arkansas right now. I can't control that. I'd like to be able to. I know I can't control that, but I can choose what I do about it. And we can choose what we do about the problems in our life. And if William Buellman is right and we're all little mini creators, then that means whatever we believe deep down in our soul about the afterlife, about spirit, about God, that's what's really going to happen to us. Now, that can be really scary or really cool at the same time, because that means if you're afraid of hell or burning in hell, and deep down you've got some type of hang up inside you that feels like you deserve to burn in hell, like the Almighty is going to come down and say, you're not worthy. Think about that. How many people out there feel like they're not worthy? And on top of that, how many people out there feel that they're not worthy and are also Christian, that believe these things literally? So their reality is going to be like what Robert Monroe talks about. When you go out of the body or you die, every person you see or shadow or whatever it is, you think it might be an entity or a harbinger or messenger of hell to take you to the pit. Now, I've studied near-death experiences, probably not as much as Trisha, but there have been quite a few people that have had hellish experiences. And I'm starting to think that maybe they've had these experiences because they believe deep down that there's a real hell. And when I say deep down, I mean something that's buried deep inside of us from childhood that we chose to believe. Now, I can't imagine that. If you even care about what I believe, I just cannot imagine that whatever created this universe is out to punish people that don't meet a certain standard, say a certain phrase, think a certain way, or accept a certain person. I just don't think that's the way it is. But I remember, and I'm going to get real personal here. This is kind of private, so I don't know if I should tell the story, but I will. You know, I've brought up the fact that I was addicted to opiates myself, and I got to think that will never go away, that I'll always have that weakness inside me somewhere, but maybe not, I don't know. But I know that it took me making the choice to reach out to somebody to help me. And it wasn't a hotline. It was actually the one person that you would never think that would help. It was, you're not going to believe this because I've talked so bad about it so much, but it was actually my boss who got me the job selling cars. And I'll never forget that day. I felt so helpless that, you know, I was going into withdrawals or whatever. You know, you got the turkey skin, you feel like you're having the flu. You're super depressed. You can barely walk. I mean, when you're going through withdrawals, it's like walking in water. And I didn't get here I wasn't a junkie. Like I guess I was, but I never planned on getting there because I wanted to be high. I got there because, you know, I was taking pain medication and I had a toothache and things got out of control, which happens to a lot of people. But anyways, it was the only person that I knew to reach out to that had the power to help me, number one, and two, actually cared. I thought actually cared. And I was so scared. I'll never forget how scared I was to go into his office because I thought for sure he was going to fire me that day. As soon as I tell him that I've got a problem with opiates, he's going to fire me, and then my life's going to just go into this spiral. But somewhere along the line, I chose to believe that divinity actually worked through people and through love, even if it's not a direct family member. And so I knocked on his door, palms sweating, heart beating. I looked like a mess. If you looked at me, you could tell something was wrong with me. Standing outside his office, and he said, "What's the deal? Sit down." I got about 5 minutes, and I told him, I said, "Look, I got an issue, you know." He said, "Well, what do you mean you got an issue?" And he gave me this weird look. So I started at the beginning. I told him about the toothaches and stuff I had back when I was bartending, and that I got, you know, I had to take painkillers. And he just said, "Stop right there. I know what you're about to say, and I can get you help if you want it." And it was so easy for him. I thought it was going to be like the hardest thing I had to go through, and it was going to be a big conversation full of judgments and cursing and all this other stuff, and him telling me I was a bad person, but it did not work out that way. Something made him. And nobody believed this after I told him because they all thought the guy was a jerk. But no, deep down inside of him, he had some love. Right? So we don't have all the answers. That was my first experience with taking a risk and reaching out for help and reaching for love from somebody that I didn't know that well, but I had a feeling deep down that he was going to help me. And he did. And I got the help I needed. And it was hard. And that's a whole nother story. But I went through it and I got out of it. And it was that moment right there that I realized that, I didn't have all the answers. People weren't who I thought they were. I mean, right now as we speak, when it comes to not having the answers, there's something ripping a hole through the galaxy. Have you seen the pictures of it? Nobody knows what that is, but I bet you if you go out into this community and you start talking about it, somebody's going to have all the answers. They're going to tell you. Oh, that's a Stargate, or, that's something this, or whatever. People that have all the answers, frankly, frighten me. Because we just got through talking to somebody that died, went to what at least her version of heaven was, came back and's got more questions than she does answers. You heard me trying to get answers out of her about certain things, but you can tell that she changed. And that's where I think, like, I admire you, because every night you're here. And I don't think you're here because I'm the most charismatic person on the planet. I think you're here because, we just want to get down to it. We want to get to the answers. We have a real agenda about finding stuff out, figuring this stuff out, and solving the problem. That's the difference. So I get a little upset sometimes when I know, at first, especially when I get tricked, when I think somebody really wants to do this and they really want to know this stuff, but really they just got an agenda. They want something from me. So they were just being nice and doing all this stuff and helping out just because they got their own agenda. Now that's actually only happened to me a few times, but that happens in this community too. Happens in the near-death community, obviously. And so you heard me earlier bring up the Masonic light, and I think this is where things get a little bit touchy because people don't like to talk about mystery schools and Freemasonry and stuff. That's all some type of big conspiracy to take over the world. Well, what I learned when I was in the Freemasonic Lodge, when they talked about the light, it wasn't really, and maybe I just didn't go far enough, but it wasn't really Satan and Lucifer and what you'll hear other people tell you about. The light was described as, it didn't matter what religious text that you used. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was the Quran. It didn't matter if it was the Bible. It did not matter. That all of that stuff led to some divine and spiritual truth that's been put through all of these books and everybody's experiences, everybody's out-of-body experiences. I mean, come on, that stuff's in the Bible too. They even say it, whether I was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. And that some of these guys, at least the esoteric Masons, were trying to find the answers. And that's why I related to esoteric Freemasonry so much. Now, I don't know if the lodge is like that now. I'd like to hope it is. But these were, when I was there, these were some very wise men that were there. And you meet somebody that's old and wise and they've had real tough experiences, but they also had a good education. They didn't pretend to know or have all the answers, but they had all the same questions. They had all the same questions. And in a way, I'm kind of jealous of Trisha because you can tell by how positive and loving she is and how full of joy that she is, that she knows now. And that's something to be jealous of. You can say it's not and that you know, but you don't know like she does unless you've had an NDE. But she knows now. Wouldn't it be nice to know that? Think about it. How different would the world be if we didn't have that fear? If you really think about the domino effect and cause and effect and what spawns people's bad behavior and hate and jealousy and all their bullcrap stuff that all their hang-ups, right? I really think that would change if people knew for a fact that they had more than one life to live, that this wasn't the end. I mean, come on. A lot of people tell you they know that, but they really don't, right? They like to think that, and they'll nod their head and look at you and go, yeah, man, there's more than this out there for sure. Yeah, but they don't know like she knows. Now, I know what you're thinking, right? Don't say that, Joe. You're going to wish something bad on you, and you're going to get in a car wreck, and you're going to have a near. No, I don't want to do that. All I'm saying is I'm jealous of that she knows. Another thing that I've found in parallels between everybody's story is angels. And she even brought that up earlier. Some people call them aliens, some people call them watchers. I like to call them angels. So there are beings out there of some type. Maybe in her experience, in her creative, godlike experience, they show up as angels with curly hair and divine light through their eyes. Maybe in a pagan's experience, they show up as something else. Maybe in a science, I guess you could say maybe somebody like Thomas Campbell's experience, they just show up as a ball of light. But regardless, they're there. They're there, and everybody I've talked to, beings, even Daniel Joseph, I talked to him about that. You talk to somebody that's had a DMT experience, they talk about beings, angels, elves, entities. So there are beings on the other side of whatever the hell this interface is, helping us through all this. Now, if you look around your reality right now, I bet you think that you start to think, okay, what's there that I can't see? Who's in the room with me right now? That's what I start to think about. And are they really here to help me? We're still going to go down this road. So later this week, we're going to talk to Dick Kahn tomorrow night, and then we're going to talk to Dr. Lieberman Wednesday. And Sarah McAllister is going to be on the program Thursday. And I really, really want to thank Don and Pacho for helping out with the booking and stuff, and Blake and Barbara because they're getting ready to write, and Eric, and especially Dennis for all he's done. Like, we're turning another corner here. And right now, more than ever, if you hadn't noticed, we lost a few of the commercials, and that's expected, right? We lost a few of those, and that happens. And so right now, more than ever, if you can support, we need it. And a couple of people did support. And I found that what I would like to get started again, and what Mary Ducina and I talked about, was this whole idea. I just want to see it work again like it did. The whole idea of pay it forward. So if you support somebody, then that means someone's going to support you. Right? And so what I've been doing is every time I've gotten a donation from somebody, or every time somebody's done something for me, I try to return the favor with what I have. And I remember it was like a couple of years ago where that was happening all over the place. I was even driving through a Wendy's line, and somebody bought my lunch, and then I bought somebody's lunch behind me. It was kind of crazy. And I think it went on for like a week, right? So what I'll say is that for everybody that has been supporting or does support the show through donations, is that you're automatically going to get the membership when it's ready, right? And it's getting there. It's just a lot. There's a lot of audio files I got to go through, folks, and cut out all the commercials and stuff a lot. And it takes some time. And then I'm putting some extra content in there as well. So just be patient with me, and I'll get all your names and emails in there. And don't forget, again, this show's here Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight. After the show, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable is coming up. We got some new programs coming on the network this weekend. The Midnight Hour is going to be on. Also, another program called Real Talk with J.D. Lewis. That's kind of a surprising show that's going to be coming on the Fringe FM. You're going to like that. And we got more stuff coming for you. So, we're not going anywhere. I'm just saying, if you can do it, do it. Give us your support. Give us a like. Give us a follow on social media. We do got to get out of here. Don't forget that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be syndicated without written permission. And music, the main music was by Chronox. If you want to check out Chronox, you can go on Reverb, SoundCloud, look for Chronox Official, and you'll be able to check out all of his music. Also, Bundy, the mystery man. People want to know who the guitarist is. Man, who's that guy playing that guitar? Well, you're going to get better answers from Eric Markham than you will me, because this is a really good buddy of Eric's. His name's Bundy, and he's kind of the mysterious guitar player, but he's damn good, isn't he? So that's Bundy. And then we've got Space Station, Kevin MacLeod, and a lot of music from the public domain. Of course, YouTube don't like to think that. And we'll be back tomorrow night with Dick Kahn. Don't forget, too, live coming up, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for coming out. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on The Secret Teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stuff.
I'm not tired!
Start the party going up and on. Hey, let's all get together, stuff is here.
not too fast. Hey, hey, let's all get gay, let's stuff his ears. Mr. Piano Man, sit down upon that stool. If you need a helping hand, you'll be rewarded. Don't you feel